An example. This probability decreases if you have more situations. If you have two examples, it's not 50-50, which is 1 over 2 or half, is actually 1 in a quarter now. Because 1 times 2 times 1 times 2 is 1 in a quarter. That's how math will work. If you have 3 examples, 4 examples, your probability of getting all of them right gets less and less, and probability of getting them wrong gets more and more. So if you have 20 examples, roughly, the probability of getting all of them true and accurate and correct, your chances are like 1 in a million. If I'm not mistaken, million or a billion? I think 1 in a million.
But what you're doing is
No, 1 in a million chance. Let me make my point. If you have 20 things to say, and by guesswork, to get them all of them right by guesswork, you have one probability to get them all right, and a million chance to get them wrong. Yep, only 20 examples. If you have 50, it goes more and more. If you have 100, more and more. That means the more things to talk about, to get them all right, the probability of getting them all correct is like 1 in a million, 1 in a billion or something like this, and 1 chance to get it wrong. Get it right. 1 chance to get it right. If we find in the Quran, there's so many examples mentioned, whether it is astrophysics and biology, whether to do with, past nations and history and archaeology, the Quran gets it all right, doesn't get anything wrong, you would say, it's very unlikely that someone is just guesswork. Does it? Where? Again, this is a misunderstanding. Quran says, look at how Allah holds the earth, right? That it doesn't move. Like Allah says, look how Allah holds the birds in the sky when they're flying. No one holds them except Allah. Does the bird move? The bird is moving. So what does it mean He holds them? The earth, is the earth flying over like this, flying over like that, or is actually stable in its position in its rotation? It's stable. Hang on, wait. Slow down. The earth and the solar system, right? This is the sun, and imagine now, ignore all this Venus and Mars and so on, right? This is the sun, this is the earth. The earth is rotating. Is it rotating like this? And then like this? And then going over there? And then doing bounce? And then falling over like that? Or is it like constantly doing its rotation in a stable orbit? No, hang on. What is it doing? It seems to be in a stable position, swimming along its own orbit. Like the sun is swimming along its own orbit. The sun has an orbit too, right? It's not stable. Everything moves. So Allah even describes about the sun and the moon and how all of them rotates and swimming in their own orbit. So He doesn't say, Allah, that the earth is something fixed and it doesn't move. This thing is making it stable in what it is. Just like the bird, when they're flying, they're not like and then flying. They're flying in a particular way of flying where they're stable, they're held up, they're balanced. When the plane flies, they're held up. You see how against the gravity by the engine, the air propulsion, how they are held up and they move with their propulsion. This is what we're talking about, how things are held up. Allah says He holds them up. He holds the bird and tazula. Okay? This ayah of the Quran, Ma yumsikunna illa ar-Rahman, right? How does the ayah begin from the very beginning?
أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء عليم.
So Allah talks about the bird, okay, how they're, and then He talks about how He holds them. But the birds don't just stay there. They're flying, they're moving. So the understanding people have, the earth is fixed. I know some people really think they believe the earth is fixed, nothing moves. There are even some scholarly opinion on this, but this is wrong because it doesn't what the Quran says. The text doesn't support their view. Because the birds.
If you read it literally, it does.
No, it doesn't.
It does. If you read it literally,
No.
The earth is fixed.
What does it mean? No. What does it mean? Antazula. So the earth doesn't fall. The earth isn't falling. It is Allah is holding them. It's not fixed. Allah is holding them. Allah is holding the earth. It means He's placed all these powerful forces of gravity, forces of attraction, where things are placed because of this. So when you have an object, because of gravity, look how it rotates around it. Our satellites. When you put up in a particular position in the sky, why don't they fall on the earth?
Because gravity.
No, why? Because they're in a position where they're held,
And someone
right?
placed them.
By what? A physical mechanism, right? What?
I just said gravity.
No. Gravity is what you describe, but Allah, when Allah describes things,
Gravity is a
He,
physical process.
yeah. So Allah is describing that He has placed within this universe all these things. Okay, something are invisible that we can see. In fact, gravity is invisible. So He has placed these things. So there's no way in the Quran you can come up and say Allah is made the earth fixed. So it is totally misunderstanding of the text.
I mean, like the problem is, I think bad translation. Like, come on. Like my biggest problem, biggest problem, is that God is all powerful and knowing, but no one's seen it. No one's been able to test it. No one's been able to. Like, it would be so much easier for people like me who I kind of want to believe in God, right? Because I kind of see the appeal of afterlife and stuff like that, right? But I'm not going to believe it until relatively recently. You can prove this thing's existence if it would show up, if it would do anything, if it would do something that we would undoubtedly know as conflict or something like that. Everybody would. But instead, this God decides to, if one exists, decides to just leave us in the dust, allow us to just go to hell for not believing in something we can't test ourselves. That's my biggest problem. Like,
Let's address your point.
Hold on. I'm not the biggest fan of the script. Like, even though the Quran is actually pretty good at the whole science thing, and if you wanna interpret it in a certain way, you can literally make anything. Like the best one is probably the Emperor one. That's pretty cool. I don't know how they do that. But obviously with scripture, people can interpret it as different things, and a book is a pretty horrible way of conveying a message because people get it wrong, people misinterpret it, people mistranslate it. And if you really wanted everyone to know about your existence, you'd show up. You wouldn't write a book, definitely not, because books suck in terms of giving you accurate information. Because like even books today, even scientific books today, people don't actually understand how these things work. Mistranslations, miswriting, misrepresentation.
Let's break it down to baby steps, because otherwise we won't be able to cover everything. Few points you mentioned. There's quite a few points. Why isn't it obvious that God exists? Why doesn't He make it clear to everyone that God exists? The communication from God through a book doesn't seem to be a better way of proving His existence. In terms of the proof, why can't we see Him, hear Him? Why can't we, actually experience this, evidence which is empirical? Now, there are several problems with what you desiring or demanding or requesting.
It's not that.
No.
It's not that hard.
No. Let me show you where the problem is.
All right.
Right? Firstly, that God exists is something obvious. That God doesn't need to prove to you, right? People have themselves negated something that is obvious. Okay? Something that is obvious. Now, if I ask you, do you accept and know gravity exists?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm able to test
Wait.
that.
Slow.
jump.
Don't jump. Now. So let's see how we have come to the conclusion. Do you see gravity? Do you hear it? Do you taste it? Okay. Is it in any of the 5 senses that we have that we can actually use it to see, test, hear, or smell?
I mean, you can test it by using your other senses.
You can test it what?
You can test its existence by using the other senses.
What senses?
You can.
What other senses we have got? We have 5 senses and one which is a 6th sense, right? So 5 senses. We were talking about touch, right? Hearing, seeing, feeling. These are the 5 senses that we have. None of these are applicable because we don't know what color gravity is, we don't know how much it weighs, we don't know how it tastes, we don't know how it smells, we don't even know, right, how it sounds like, right? So gravity is beyond our 5 senses. So how did we come to the conclusion? Because if you demand the sensory perception using those senses of gravity, gravity is beyond our reach on this. So how did we come to the conclusion? Why do you believe gravity exists? Why do you know gravity exists?
People have told me and I've been able to test that for myself.
How did you test it? People told his testimony, right? Okay, we'll deal with that.
I mean, we're all on the ground. We're all on the ground,
Huh?
and people on the other side of the earth are also on the ground, implying that there's some kind of force keeping us both on the earth. And because the earth is a sphere and not flat, then we could infer that from that people on the north pole, people on the south pole are being still on the ground, right? If you were to put the earth as like this is the north pole, this is the south pole, you're technically upside down if you're here, right? You're being pulled in towards the middle.
So people don't fall; they somehow stick to the earth. So you are assuming it's not the flying green spaghetti monster that's pulling it down, right? You're assuming it's not.
I'm assuming
For the sake of argument, I'm saying it's actually the flying green spaghetti monster, which is invisible, that's pulling everything down. Can you not see that? Well, of course you can't see it; it's invisible.
Yeah.
That's pulling it down.
Yeah.
So is that the flying green spaghetti monster pulling it down?
Is the flying is the
Okay,
flying
simplifying.
green
The spaghetti monster is actually pulling everything down to the center of the earth.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's not gravity.
But we can infer that gravity exists.
No, hang on.
It could be
You
anything.
made a claim.
I know it could be anything.
No, you made a claim.
Yeah.
Gravity exists. Now I haven't seen it. I haven't tasted it. I haven't felt it. None of the five senses. Now you assume that there's something pulling it. I'm saying it's the flying spaghetti monster.
Yeah.
And why don't you accept that? It's not gravity. It's actually the flying spaghetti
I know,
monster.
but what we've understood as gravity.
No, forget about what you understood. You haven't seen gravity in action.
You haven't seen your God either.
Hang on. We are now dealing with your question about why God is not so obvious, right?
Yeah.
And yet believable.
Yeah. Well.
Is that why you, right? You said, okay, God needs to be within our five senses.
Yeah.
I am saying, now we have something called gravity.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a graviton, and yet we believe in it.
We believe
Now,
in its existence.
why do we believe it exists when it's beyond our senses? Oh, we believe from the effects of gravity. Now we're talking. Gravity is this pull of an object of another object. So what we see is the effect of the force. Gravity is the cause, and what moves from here, an apple drops, and Newton thinks, so he sees the effect. So you are what we call, you're making what? An inference from observation and saying the effect must have a cause, and that caused what we call gravitational force. So what did you see? You did not see the cause. You saw the effects. I see creation, and the creation is an effect of a creator which caused it.
Yeah.
And you say, no, I don't accept it.
Not really.
Why are you so inconsistent?
No, why? I'm inconsistent because
Why?
Because these things like there's people model gravity, test its exact speed, tested the gravitational force and its speed, calculated it, tested it a lot of times, and it fits that 9.81 meters per second if that is on Earth.
That's the effect.
It fits that, and because we have tested it, calculated a number, time, like technical measurements and stuff like that, we can know from that rigorous testing, thousands of years, we know the areas for ages. Because we know the speed of it now, the temporal effects of it, and other things.
You're talking about the speed of the force, the pulling force, right? Right. Not about gravity, because you don't even know what it is. You haven't seen it. You're seeing the effects. What you're describing is how that object, how fast it falls. Nothing to do with gravity. There is no gravity. You can't see gravity. As you said, it's beyond your five senses. This object is pulled on the earth. You're only describing the object, nothing else. You're saying this object is pulled by this amount of force.